Can you drink without sniffing if you've always drank and had a sniff? So this is going to be two parts to this answer. Yes and no. Yes, when I first started drinking again, I could drink without it. However, the thought was always there. The thought was there from the very first drink, and it didn't go away. And I kidded myself that it was going to go away and that I was going to be okay with it, but it was always niggling. And over time, the more I was having to drink, the more I was tempted to do it, and ended up doing it. And that is what happens. So even though I was never somebody that would just go and buy that on its own or drink on its own, the two together, obviously I got a connection with the two. And I've been programmed like that since I was about 16. So I've been doing it since I was about 16. That's a long time. I'm 35 now. So I need to unlearn that behaviour. And I only gave it all up for 5 months. And when I spoke to my counsellor the other day, he said it takes about a full year before your brain can like fully retrain itself anyway. And even if I get to a year, I don't think going back to drink is necessarily going to be the right thing to do, because I know when I do drink, I instantly go back to that mentality where I want to get a bag. I want to become that person again. And it's so hard because there have been times, like on the weekend, on Saturday or whenever it was, where I had a drink and I didn't have any. And there's been times when I've gone away and I've, had a drink and I've not done any. But that's only because it hasn't been there. So when people say like, yeah, you can go back to drinking and whatever, I'm not saying you can't. Maybe other people can go back to drinking in moderation and stuff. And I think where I'm at, like I said, is that it's not destroying my life at the moment, but it's also not necessarily bringing anything positive to it. So for me, I just know that I need to go back to how I was. I feel like it is something creeping up in me. I can see myself getting worse in the sense that every time I drink, I'm wanting that. And it's not going to go away. I know it's not. It's going to itch away until I give into it. And then it's going to be a massive binge and whatever. So as long as I don't have that first drink, I'm not going to want it. And that's what I've come to have to accept. And I guess I knew that all along anyway. But, I didn't want to have to admit that, because that means then I've got to give up drinking as well, which I don't really want to have to do. But realistically speaking, is it worth it? Is it worth me putting myself in that position where I risk having a drink and then risk going and buying a bag, wasting money I haven't got, staying up for a night or whatever, gambling money away, and then feeling like shit about myself? Is it worth that? And that's what I've got to ask myself. And at the moment, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. And I can see myself changing. I'm sure everybody else could see myself like changing. And like I said, I just think for now, I've got to really, really fight against the urge to have a drink, even if it's just a drink, because with that comes the temptation to do other things. And I think as long as I continue to let drink be in my life, I'm just going to lose all the will, and it's just going to get worse and worse. So I am going to be really hard on myself. It's hard to have to fucking talk about this, because I've been so like, oh yeah, fuck it, I'm not an alcoholic, I'm not an addict, blah, blah, blah. And then I've been saying I am. I've been all over the shop. I've been round the Mulberry Bush and back, and I know you all know that. But I'm not focusing on whether or not I'm an addict, guys. I'm focusing on whether or not this is bringing anything positive to my life. And if it's not, then I need to change things. And I think I would be a lot better off as a person, financially, mentally, in every way, shape and form, if I just continue trying to stay sober. And I know that it's not going to be easy, but I'm going to try my best. I really am. So some people probably can, but if you're asking me as somebody that has lived that life and has been sober and then gone back to drinking, you absolutely can't go back to drinking without thinking about coke. It's always going to be on the forefront of your mind. It only takes a couple of sips of drink and then the thought gets in your head. It's always going to be there for me. I know it will. And I just don't think any amount of abstinence is going to take that away, because as soon as I have that drink, it makes me want to have a bag. And it's so hard to fight that urge. I have fought it and I have won against it a lot of times, but it's getting fucking harder to do. And I know it's just a matter of time, obviously, before I give into it again, and then I'm back down that path again, and it's just not worth it. I have given into it lots of times throughout this journey, and it's just not worth it, guys. So yeah, I'm just going to try and stay away from everything. And if you're a bit like me, then maybe you should do the same as well. Because whilst it might be a bit boring and a bit shit to begin with, I think longer term, having to like not worry about that is just going to be much better. So yeah, anyway, peace and love.